by the way.
No, it won't be official for a few days, but.
Is it already online? Yep, they're there, sorry.
All right, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. This is the Fairhaven Shade Tree Commission meeting of November 6th, 2024. Sunshine Law notice. This is the regular meeting of the Shade Tree Commission of the Borough of Fairhaven. In accordance with provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this meeting on November 6, 2024 is available by call-in phone number or through Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 26, 2024. Posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Shade Tree Commission Secretary is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. All right, roll call.
Chris Larson,
Here.
Mike D'Angelo,
Here.
Leah Begani,
Here.
Peter DeGotti. Mike Hoey. Absent. Chris McCabe. Absent. Kevin McGovern. There's Peter.
Here. And under the wire.
Kevin McGovern, absent. Jill Sullivan. Not here. Bonnie Torcivia.
Here.
All right. Also present, Councilman Olson and Borough Secretary Larson. You have a quorum, and Jill Sullivan.
Jill Sullivan.
I'm here too.
You guys. All right. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
United States of America. Stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Did everybody look at the prior meeting minutes? Questions, comments there? Motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Minutes approved. All right, move right into project updates, the NJUCF tree inventory grant.
Yeah, so since last meeting, we've had one training session with Arbor Pro. Where they just started going over the basics of the navigation of the system that they recorded all the data in. We're due to have a second level training the week of the 19th. Just based on schedules. And then at that point, we should be in a position to get the finalized report and close out the grant, which again, the goal is to still have that done before the end of the year.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Is it easy to understand? Is it complicated?
No, it's very user friendly.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. The community forest management program, so far we have one quote from our licensed tree expert of $8,900. We're waiting for an Arbor Pro. quote
Yes,
still?
I spoke with them this week and I asked them if they like to put in a proposal, given the fact that they are familiar with Fairhaven at this time after doing the inventory and they are interested. And I would expect to see that, you know, I would say I would hope this week.
Okay.
They, you know, so.
They didn't talk
And they
like-
understand that we are interested in applying for a grant, what that grant would be valued at. And that they would be, you know, that we already have one bid, so, yeah.
Great.
Can I just say that when I was at the Shade Tree Federation conference, I ran into Bill Brash, who is in Freehold. And he is the one who did our original.
Yeah.
And I said, would you be interested in, you know, bidding on this? And And sure, and Seeger was standing there and they said, oh yeah, he's our licensed tree expert, he's wonderful. So I just thought it might be good to get it from him, I have this information, yeah. You want to, I was kind of, the grant is for 5,000, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, this quote is for the plan itself, and then there is, yeah, $5,000. We also did reach out to Sherry to give us a quote on writing and handling the grant as well.
Okay,
We haven't heard back on that piece yet.
okay.
Whether or not it will be worth it, we'll see. I mean, obviously, it's a couple $1,000, to write a $5,000 grant, so.
Well, do you want me to give you the information for Bill? You
Yeah,
can write that
absolutely.
in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free to ask, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did mention that the current plan was written 10 years ago and was renewed because of COVID, so you know. It's basically, I feel like at this point, we're basically starting from scratch,
Yeah.
but you know, so, yeah, well. But Bill Brush would obviously be familiar with our original goals.
Okay. That's good. More quotes the better, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the green team and natural area update. Bonnie?
So the natural area is having a volunteer weekend, and the natural area coming up, it was in the Borough Buzz, it's 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, the 16th, 17th, 10 to 1. So we would love to have people come, it's a great workout in the woods, it's always fun, and they're looking for volunteers. The green team, we had a lot of the green team members and other members of the public help with the new culinary garden expansion. That was the INSET project that went very well. It's, if you haven't walked down trail, go see it because it's really great. It's double the size and all that. And the green team will be renewing our certification coming up, which is a big deal. And it would be great if we had the inventory done and we could use some of that to get a bunch of tree points.
It's done, I mean,
Yeah,
the inventory is done, we have access to all the data.
Okay, but there's lots of like reporting and tracking. That
For
is
what?
part, just for hazardous trees, like the way we, remember
Yes.
Christie, I tried to get us to get points for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we asked
that's all in
specifically
there.
to add that field for trees because
Okay,
of the sustainable Jersey
oh, good.
requirement. So they added that field for us.
Yeah, we have an count of the 2,636 trees, like they're, yeah,
Okay,
How many
Great.
trees?
2,636. That does not include the natural area. That's, you know, street trees and park trees and borough property, like, you know, for example, like Borough Hall.
So you guys, you have to,
I can share all the actions, there are a bunch of tree related actions, that. There is a tree ordinance, but I think we had qualified for that, but I wonder if it's been changed because of the stormwater. I'll check with that, that's what I think of. All the actions, because I think there were like 40 points, which is a lot for various.
I'm sorry, I think Kevin McGovern might be on here. There's a Kevin. Kevin McGovern, if that's you on the Zoom, can you use the raise hand feature so we know that you're here and I can bring you over? There you go. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure that you, Kevin.
all right, Bonnie, you're still up.
So.
Tree Federation Conference and Shore Shade Tree Meeting.
Yeah, so I went to the Shore Shade Tree Committee meeting down in Massbon. At their Borough Hall, the chair of their shade tree runs this, decided to organize it because he felt like everybody was struggling with the same problems and wanted to get great to get together and just talk it through. And it really was interesting because everybody has the same problems. I mean, it's just, and it's nice to know that everybody does, that we're not unique and to talk through them. It was mostly, you know, town staff of the Seagirt, Spring Lake, Belmar, Point Pleasant, Bradley Beach, and Massbon, but Atlantic Highlands was there and they would love more towns to join in. The next meeting will be Wednesday, February 19th at 6 o'clock. And Brian invites anyone and everyone who loves trees. So that's his message. The Shade Tree Federation Conference was great. It was 2 days. I went the second day. Next year will be their 100th anniversary. So I think it will be super special. So I would encourage anybody that wants to go. I mean, it's just, they have great speakers. They, you know, they talked about the tree ordinance, they talked about tracking inventory. They had, the chair of Haddonfield, they are talking about the inventory. He's our pro. I was thinking if you ever had a question, he would probably be really happy. He'd be a good resource, that you could use to talk to him. They talked about, they had someone talking about sidewalks and trimming roots and the proper way to do it and how you really should accommodate the trees, and there's always ways to do it and not, you know, cut through the trees, and you can shave the sidewalk instead of the roots, and so it just, it's really a worthwhile meeting, I think. I mean, I know it's expensive and I don't know how many people can go, but
Was Sherry there by chance?
Sherry was there Thursday and I was there Friday, I think, so I missed her, but I did talk to Fernbrook, they're always there. And I did talk to a lot of the people from the shore, so it's really, I mean, it's a great community that we're in, so I feel very privileged to be a part of it. They did, you know, talk about the ordinance and same thing, lots of, you know, back and forth, I guess. The one big thing, so at this conference, there's a lot of tree people, from the trade, and they were not included in this, and so there's a little bit of like, why did we not get included, you know? I don't know, so they just weren't included in the discussion on what language went into that. Yeah,
Oh.
and they're under the DEP now. So it was kind of interesting. One of the things that they recommended, the tree escrow fund, they suggested that that should just be used mostly for planting and maybe maintenance, like pruning. Don't use up the removals as much because it's take up everything and it's really for planting. They really stress pruning as, you know, you've got to keep on top of your trees, and which I don't think we do really well, and we probably should focus on that. They, yeah, it's a lot of things, but anyway, I just, you know, I can't say enough about the stuff you learn, and it's a very valuable resource, and as I said, next year should be a very good one, because it's 100 years.
Good, thank you. Earlier in your comment, though, you said we're not unique. I take
I
umbrage
think-
with that. I thought we were very special.
No, we're not
Very
unique.
special. No, it's
Everybody has the same, you
Very
know,
special.
don't tell me what to do. How do we control it? I mean, a lot of the shore towns really lost trees to development, so they're even. Manasquan, Brian Mellon basically said, we've given up on trying to control it. We're just going to plant as many trees as possible. Anybody that asks for a tree, we give them a tree for free. He said, we just want to get trees in the ground. So that's their main focus.
Yeah, they plant street trees for free, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, yeah, you want a tree in front of your house, you ask for them, you get it.
Yeah.
We should think that.
All right. Thank you, Bonnie.
Mhm.
Community outreach. They have begun.
Yes, we have 201 followers on our Instagram page.
Past
We made it
200.
over the
Did we
200.
Weren't we at 199?
We were 199 last month.
198 for the past 6 months. You did.
We made it over 200, y'all. And we should have an article in Fairhaven Living this month. I don't know if anyone got theirs yet. I checked
Oh,
my
I
mail
did
today.
just got it, but I didn't look at it, I didn't read it.
We're in there.
Oh.
And they were able to add some, hopefully, I haven't seen it, but I didn't see what they finally put in, but I asked him to include some tree maintenance, graphic, like, ivy removal,
Right.
trimming, whatever we had on that door hanger.
Mhm.
He said that whatever their art department would probably like fuss with it, but, that they were going to include that. And basically just kind of went over what our goals are as a commission, that we've been working on a new ordinance. really just trying to get education out there for for how to maintain your trees and, trying to encourage an understanding and love for the canopy.
Did you say community living or Fairhaven?
Fairhaven living,
Fairhaven living, okay, that's what I thought.
yeah. It didn't come to me today.
Good talking to the cover.
We should for Arbor Day. You know, your cop, yeah, instead of a family, it's trees on the cover.
Good luck with that. I'll give you her phone number. You can see if we can talk about that. I was thinking about, can we get like high schoolers that wanna help with, that are good with social media, that may want volunteer hours? Is that something we can do?
Yeah, I think it did.
Or do they have to be like a part of the commission?
I mean, we use the key club for the door hangers,
Yeah, but that's like,
an isolated project.
yeah, I mean, that's like a controlled. Communication.
I don't know. You
Yeah.
want them to take.
I mean, I don't know if you could like have them make graphics for you and then you post, because then you could approve them, but I would not.
Hand it over.
I wouldn't
Not hand-
hand it over, I mean, even if, sometimes it's just about being engaged and that takes time to grow your engagement.
Sure.
And, you know, it's about bandwidth, and also, I mean, making graphics takes me a long time.
Yeah, it
too.
does,
It does, it's
yeah.
a long time. I guess I think any help would be helpful.
Okay.
But I understand, are they skilled enough to make the graphics? Do you know? I don't have any kids in high school, I don't know.
Yes,
Pretty savvy.
yeah,
Yeah, okay,
yeah. So I would imagine that you would have to be the engagement person, like you would have to respond to it,
right.
you'd want to control that.
I'd want to control that, that's fair. Okay, I'll reach out to, is it the same person that was running it when we did the door hangers?
Probably, I mean, is Jeremy, Shelton still running Key Club?
I don't know if he's still there, I don't know if he's doing key close.
Yeah,
We can ask him.
yeah,
I don't know.
If it's just bandwidth, you might wanna try some of the AI stuff, because you can say, make me a graphic with Dolly. Make me a graphic of a person planting a tree or a family planting a tree or
Mhm.
whatever, just describe it and it'll make it.
Okay. I've been doing some AI, but not for graphics, that's, thanks.
I mean, there's a graphic design class at RFH,
That's a good idea.
so, I mean, that would be, I don't know who the teacher of that is, but.
My son's taking next semester, I'll look for you at the teacher. I met him on back to school night, I just can't remember his name.
I think that's all I have for community outreach right now.
Okay, great, thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
Invasive species grants. Kevin? Find anything out on this?
Sorry, so the guy Brian McDonald that I reached out to at the community forestry got back to me and he told me to pursue a couple of potential places, one of which was the NJ, sorry, bear with me, NRCS office. And then there's these invasive species strike teams, but as far as I know, there's some grants with NRCS, but I'm not sure if they're going to be the right fit. And I know Seeger and Hopewell Valley have these invasive species strike teams that are funded by like corporations and those types of donations. So I have to do more digging. He took him a while to get back to me. So maybe put me on the agenda for next month to provide an update because I still haven't heard back from some of these organizations.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Peter,
Hey, all.
keeper of our count.
Yes, not too much to report here. We have the annual budget, which is on our agenda. Just the community forestry management plan was already covered. Last time we added in January, putting a notice out about the resident tree buying program, so that's a little ways out. And the other notable thing we talked about last time was just having a quarterly budget report, but we're obviously not, that wouldn't be for this meeting, so. That's all I have to report.
Yeah, sounds good. Does anybody have anything that we can think of in the not so distant future that we haven't put on there already?
We went with that
Yeah.
last meeting, so I think it was pretty extensive. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
All right, brings us to the budget. So here we are at that special time of year where we gotta get our money together. Last year, or this year, I should say, 2024, our budget appropriation was $19,250, of which, as of the end of October, we had used $14,395. This year, we are again going to be held to a 2% increase. That gives us a additional $385. And we're gonna be coming after all of it. So that brings us our budget, potential budget of $19,635. Of which next year, as we talked about before, our community forestry management plan has to be updated, and again, our quote so far is for $8,900. There is a potential grant available for $5,000. But we have to figure out how to go about writing that grant and hopefully getting it. It's not guaranteed that we would get $5,000. And we will also be faced with a $3,000 software update subscription. Now, I know we had the 1 year included with the initial. I'm assuming that was effective once the inventory was done, or was it?
I think it's gonna be
used?
effective once the training's done, so
Okay.
we'll be due to pay for that in November of next year.
Next year,
Yeah.
okay, all right, so we'll have another $3,000 to hit our budget. If you subtract those items, it leaves us $7,700 to pay for our licensed tree expert. So I guess there is gonna be I don't know, some big borrowing and maybe stealing. And I was.
You were talking about
hoping-
money, I wasn't listening.
Yeah. So I was gonna hope to get together with you and talk offline, and see what,
That's
if
budget
there's
time,
something.
so that's good.
Wait,
Um,
the $7,700 for the licensed tree expert,
right,
is that in our budget or? is
so
that in
that,
town?
that's basically what we're left with after those two expenses. The $8,900 is gonna be a one-time charge, it's not something that we have to budget for year after year. The software, we will have to budget for going forward, every year. Currently, our budget for our licensed tree expert was $10,000. As of the end of October, we spent roughly $7,800. So by the end of this year, we'll probably be under the $10,000, but pretty close, I would imagine. So I think that's a conversation I think we should have.
There is, on the software, if you buy multiple years, there is a discount, so,
Mhm.
if that's worth considering.
Yep, I think it was it 5% for 3 years or 10% for 3 years?
I don't
20%?
remember.
Here, see if I can read it there.
Well, we're in it, right? I mean, it's not like we're coming out, so like.
Yeah.
You should always look for the best discount.
Sure, 10% if you sign up for 3 years, so that's 7,500 right now. 20% for 5 years, that'd be $11,000. Current, these numbers were from the beginning of
Do
the
we have
year.
to pay up front, or is it just that we sign up? Do we have to pay that up front for 3 years?
So I would think so,
Yeah.
to get the discount, that's why they want their money.
That's,
Yeah.
Chris, what exactly was the 19,250 spent on? Do you have a breakdown with that?
Yeah, so, well, 19,250 was our overall budget,
Okay.
14,395
Right.
is what we spent
Right.
out of that. 7,800 for our licensed tree expert. $250 in training and conferences. And I think we got off fairly easy this year because there were quite a few free classes online available that we were able to pick up a few credits, and we were way ahead of our needed credits, but as you know, the next year starts at 0, so we'll be back at it again. The tree planting and removal was $6,000, it's called $6,100. Our Christmas tree, our Fernbrook purchases. And that's it. Goes quick.
And what the budget is for the town for trees? Do you have any idea what that is?
For the town as
Just
far
for
as.
maintenance and for, I
I
mean,
don't-
what do we put?
I don't think that line item, I don't think it's broken out that way. I think it falls, I can take a look, but I think it falls into, DPW. They don't say, trees, snow removal. It's at least the budget that I see, maybe there's another layer, another level.
Yeah, wouldn't it be? I don't know, couldn't it be estimated?
I have it. It's, there's a line item called buildings and grounds tree removal. That's all the work that DPW does, and also work that they cannot do with their own equipment, so they have to hire an outside contractor. This year was $15,000.
That's the
That was the
budget,
budget. That was the budget.
but we just got something, you said it's for 8, that was the McCarter,
They've exceeded so far. Yes,
so then what happens?
I don't know. I'm not in finance.
So that's tree removal, but what about tree maintenance?
Both, that's a build, it's called buildings and grounds.
So,
Building and grounds tree.
and it doesn't, so I would be just curious how much of that was spent on tree removal, and if any, and well, this $8,000 just came through for Frontier at McCarter is for pruning, right? It's not, but it's just for pruning. right?
Yeah, I forwarded you all the
Right.
information. Yeah.
But I just wonder, I'm just curious how much we spend on taking care of our trees versus just reacting to having to take dangerous trees down. Like, I feel like the pruning should be a focus going forward as a maintenance item to prevent us having to take
I
trees
can
down.
ask, I don't know if they have that information, if they do, I'll find out. And share.
I guess, I mean, do we have any input in that? Does anybody else feel strongly that we should be?
Well, I think like that's one of the, like, I know we've talked about this, but
Yeah.
like now that we have the inventory and
Right.
there's an assessment of the, recommended maintenance, like if you look through it, like there's some of them that identify trees that should be removed,
Mhm.
some of them that just need routine pruning and stuff like that. And, so you could build your maintenance, schedule around, hopefully,
Yeah.
obviously taking care of the ones that are dangerous first and then moving on to, the routine thing, and where I think it probably, because we haven't been looking at it holistically, it might take us a moment to like get to the point where, the forward focus would be pruning because we can. I think,
get rid of
I
the
think when we
dangerous,
look at this, and we see, and maybe that's something important to look at is not for our budget, but for the DPW budget, like how many of those trees were identified as priority 1 removals? I would think,
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's part of the training that they showed the DPW and say, this is like what. you
yeah, they're
should-"
involved in this, yeah,
I knew they were,
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, so I would think, we would hope to get to a point where that budget would be more of a maintenance budget as opposed to a reactionary, like, removal budget.
The DPW will be asking for the funds needed to remove the more priority.
I
hazard
don't know
trees.
what they're gonna ask for, I'm just saying like the information is more readily available at this point.
I guess it's available, I just wanna make sure it's being used properly, like, I mean,
They're fully engaged in this
Yeah.
training, so.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're just at the precipice of this, right? So we're gonna have a lot of information right up front.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to be a little parsimonious as we go forward.
It's good, like,
Yeah,
it's good,
it's really
like,
good,
it's,
yeah.
it's definitely a huge step forward.
Yeah.
In how we're going to maintain our trees and prioritize, you know, the maintenance.
All right, moving on. Tree removal permit data. Yeah, that.
Oh, that's scary.
There you go.
No. So let's see. 11 since our last meeting, you're only here.
Yep. I would say almost all of them are diseased, dying, or failing, right?
Yeah.
Be also interesting to see what was removed since this information, because the survey was a couple months ago, and then what, to see what was removed since.
Yeah, and that would only be relevant if it was a.
If it was a borough
Arrow tree,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, but that's a good point, like if it is, that it needs to be
Right.
updated, yeah,
Updated.
yeah.
Does this include borough trees?
No, this is, tree removal permits.
Right.
Okay. Do we track the public trees removal?
Nick does, because we have to put it into the annual accreditation reports that I do, and for Arbor, Tree City USA and then JUCF, it's all broken out.
Any comments, questions?
I was gonna say, as a question, the public, what we're looking at, since it's kind of, how many trees were removed, what did you say?
It looks like 11 since our last meeting.
Okay.
If they were applied, they were at least applied for. Were these definitely already removed or are they just in the works? These were applied for. It's like 11.
These are
Gone.
permits granted. I don't know if they've scheduled the work or it's up to the homeowner.
Okay, all right.
These are the permits that have been granted.
So it looks like 11 trees were applied for removal for one reason or another. Most of them, again, as Mike said, dead, dying, disease, failing. It looks like about the same number in September. August was a busy month.
Mhm.
It looks like about 11 trees a month over the last 3 months. All and then removed.
What if it's not required for replacement, but encouraged? Who's encouraging?
These are all Sherry's comments when
These
she
are-
signs off on the permit. If
Okay.
it's not required for the ordinance, she's always
She
still
was-
says, but encouraged.
Okay. Well, glad
A
you
lot
said-
of not required. A lot of not.
Yeah.
All of them.
Because
there's-
it's
For
dead.
for the
Yeah.
dead or dying.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on to the 2025 shade tree meeting dates. This is just our yearly calendar. Everybody agrees to be the same calendar, the first Wednesday of every month, or what do you? Is that what it is, first official?
Yeah, first
Okay,
Wednesday of the month, 7:30
and then,
hybrid.
yep, and then July is our typical recess.
Yes, or month off.
Yeah.
Yes.
You might do one.
When I first joined, we only met once every other month.
Yeah, it was
It
very.
was a good time.
Yes, yes. Days long.
But, make a motion to, or ask for a motion to approve the calendar, once, stick with the same format.
I move to approve the 2025 Shade Tree Commission.
Second.
Calendar approved. All right. Looks like that's it. Council and tree ordinance update, Councilman Olson.
Yes, so I think we're on the 1 yard line. I think back to after I won my election, the first conversation I had with the mayor is he said, I want your number one priority to be, to get a tree ordinance passed, we're out of compliance, stormwater rules. We're losing trees and we're not replacing them, and it's been languishing for years. And I was naive enough to think that it would be a couple of months. And here we are in November. There's probably 50 people's fingerprints on it. The North Star of the ordinance has been the compromise that I think this group came to over several months, several meetings. We introduced it, it was workshopped. There were a few amendments. I do think that the amendments stayed true to the spirit of what you all agreed on. It was introduced, and I told you at the beginning that I wouldn't introduce something if I didn't think it would pass. I do think I have the votes. I would say that it is unfinished business. As we talked about, there are some topics that we put a pin in, like the heritage trees. As soon as this group can come to an agreement on how to define them, how to deal with them, I do have the mayor's word that we can introduce that for workshopping. So we're close.
Is that predicated on what we decide about heritage trees, or do we move forward?
No, so we'll move forward as is. We're out of compliance, and I'll be honest, I want to get the cash register flowing. I want funds coming into the escrow, the tree fund, start doing the plantings, to do the maintenance. It's been too long, too many years. Let's get the money flowing. And then continue to work on heritage, or maybe there's some things that you all think are great, but after we've tried it for a few months, you think that it needs to be changed or amended. Or things we didn't think of. I think everybody's in agreement that we want to make sure that the developers, it's as, I guess, as punitive as possible while staying within the boundaries of legality. So that's the stuff that's on my mind. So that's where we are.
Did Andrew Civil had brought that up about the penalties and whether we bumped up against a maximum? Did you ever get
I
that?
did not.
Because that's big. That's really big. Because what is our town maximum? Because they could take down all these trees, get this huge penalty, but we can't impose it.
follow up
I
with
mean,
you.
that
Let's
needs
remember.
to be, I would say, before this passes, that needs to be absolutely crystal clear. How we get those penalty fees, and if in fact we're not going to get them because it's something in the borough bylaws. I don't even know where that would be, but Andrew Civil said something about it.
I'm sorry, but I didn't know.
There was something to the effect that there might be a maximum threshold that we might be violating.
If
For our powers, just as a borough writ large, not specific to trees.
On
And
the
I will-
fees or the penalty?
it's the fees, if you take out, a bunch of great big trees and there's a huge fee attached,
Mhm.
thousands of dollars. And it's higher than what we are allowed to charge as a borough for a fee, which I don't understand where that falls, where that is in our,
Oh, that's good. I know
but then
that,
that means we don't get it.
yeah, well, I
Or those
don't
things.
know if that's the case, but I'll ask you.
Okay, but we ask and then get it in and then make the language in here. So it's not a problem. You'll ask him to put that in the ordinance?
Well, I think it's what do you put what in the ordinance?
Well, clarify, I mean, if in fact this is language with fee schedules that we will never get because of I mean, whether we change our maximum level of fees we can get in the borough or whatever, for our county, how do we adjust that so we can get all this money? Is it, we modify,
Well, so we had two lawyers look at it, the overall ordinance. And they never came back with that, so maybe he looked at it and said,
he did, he's Anderson.
no, he said in the meeting, but,
Yeah.
he and, Christine have looked at it since. So I'll double check, and get back.
Okay.
I mean, that, obviously, the intent is not to have a fee in there, that people don't have to pay.
Right,
And that, we would wanna change that right away.
okay. Am I allowed to say one other thing?
Ask the chair.
Chair?
No,
Chair.
absolutely.
So I attended a lot of the council meetings, listened to a lot of, feedback, from various constituents. And it seemed to me that one of the concerns a lot of people expressed was the significant specimen trees. I know they were called heritage, but in our existing ordinance, they are significant specimen trees. And they are protected. And it's based on a kind of cumbersome, the 60% largest similar tree listed in either the Monmouth County Largest Tree or the New Jersey Big Tree Hunt. Which means that has to be updated. I mean, it's a little bit cumbersome. But I'm just wondering, I think this was important enough to enough people. It's not that hard to just take the lines that are drawn through in our existing ordinance and put it back in, and maybe what we do is specify, we all talk about the buttonwood trees as something that should be protected. The big tree hunt trees should be protected. There might be other trees that we can name, and maybe we make it a list of these trees. Maybe there's something that's right next to a stream that's particularly valuable to soaking up stormwater, you know, there could be a list of trees. I mean, the significant specimen trees, the language in our current ordinance is, it's presumed the significant specimen trees should only be removed in the most compelling and extraordinary circumstances. Removal will be permitted only if approved by the governing body. We could substitute the shade tree if you don't want to hear these anymore. The loss of lot yield, building area, or profitability of development shall be deemed neither compelling nor extraordinary. Why can we not just take a few lines out, keep a definition of a specimen tree that will protect some street trees, which was also a concern, right? The buttonwood trees. It just doesn't seem that difficult to keep language, some of the existing language that was in there for a long time. I just feel like residents were worried about this. This was something that was expressed over and over again. And why shouldn't we be sensitive? I don't think there's anybody on this committee that doesn't want to save specimen trees. You know, wouldn't want that language in there.
We all agree, and I think Brian said before, and we've said again, we're definitely gonna address this.
But in the meantime,
Sure, and I mean, if we can come up with we weren't planning to rehash this at this meeting, but I mean, we can definitely do that. In fact, that will be one of our proposed new agenda items for our next meeting. And absolutely, I don't know why we.
is that gonna be after this passes?
Yes, so I
So that's
remember,
not really
I
very
remember this
helpful.
debate very clearly. Okay, we talked about it in two subsequent meetings, heritage trees. Everyone's in agreement that we want to have it in there. But there's not agreement about how to define them, and then once you define them, what to do with them. Michael was sitting in that chair. I was right there, and he said, it sounds like this is something that maybe we should put a pin in. Because it might take months to sort of button this down, and in the meantime, trees are coming down, and we're not collecting cash. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And so we decided as a group to put a pin in it and say, let's table it. Let's not make perfect the enemy of the good. Get this passed, get in compliance, get the cash coming in, and we will address it.
I think that our current ordinance is actually in compliance. Bill Brooks told me that. I don't know what about it is not in compliance, actually.
It's not, it doesn't comply with M4 stormwater.
It has language in it, protects trees. I mean, I'm
Doesn't
not,
apply to Borough. That's one. The
Doesn't-
stormwater requirements require all the tree removal ordinance to apply to all trees, including Borough property. Our existing ordinance does not. So that's one example, and there's probably others,
Protecting borough trees?
that there has to be a process.
Yeah.
The process has to apply to the borough as well.
Well, I mean, in this, there was a process because it gave the code enforcement officer a list of, you know, very reasonable, which one of the public pointed out, very reasonable circumstances where exceptions could be made. Which I also,
As soon as the Shade Tree Commission can get to an agreement
well,
on
maybe we
what,
could agree. I mean, I
about
don't.
what a heritage tree is.
Well, I think the
And how
heritage,
does, hold on, I'm not interrupting you. As soon as the Shade Tree Commission can agree on what a heritage tree is, how we define them, and then what to do with them once we define them, I will bring it right away to the mayor.
I mean, is it really that difficult to put the, specimen tree language, the significant specimen tree language? There's a definition in the existing ordinance. There's a paragraph protecting it and saying that those trees will, if you want to remove them, and you need to come before council. I mean, there is simple language in there. It is the 60% of the Monmouth County, but that's what we used for a very long time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I would say that we might want to add some special trees in there. It just doesn't, I just don't think it's that hard to.
But you're even what you're talking about here, you're saying we could add some trees here. Again, it's a slippery slope. And we're so close to getting this thing passed, and we agreed here that we would send it to town council. I think this would delay things further. We've been with this ordinance for, I don't know how many years before I was even here, and I've been here since 2014. And Christie, what's in our escrow fund right now for the tree escrow fund? What's that?
The Shade Tree Trust is about 5,300.
I feel like, you know, we've been going over this for years. And we can, and I promised, and we said as a group that we constantly look at this, review it, and see if we can agree on the heritage trees and specimen trees.
Is it possible to propose to council that we're on the agenda every quarter to kind of check on the ordinance and see, like, take the pulse of like what's been going on, what we're seeing, what we're hearing from the community?
I like that idea. I don't know if the council's the right place for it. I think we should have a process where we're getting like this kind of report and discussions with administration about how it's working. Like I said, there might be things that we think are fine, but there's a loophole that we didn't think of that we would need to close, for example. So I think we're going to be getting feedback. I don't know if it comes to council though.
So do we have to, just help me understand, so if we want to make a change, like if we discover there's an issue.
Yeah.
And we need to make a change because, you know, trees are coming down that we didn't expect or
Yeah.
what have you. How do we make the change at the next council, commission meeting and then propose that change to you to bring to council?
Yes.
And then would they be able to like vote on that at that meeting?
Okay, so that's a good question. So if we make a material change now, it starts the process over. It's basically a 3-meeting process. Has to be workshopped, introduced, and then a vote. You can make de minimis changes, but a non-de minimis change sort of starts the clock over again. And so something like adding heritage starts the clock over, and it's 3 meetings.
But I would say not use the word heritage. I would use the
Whatever,
language significant specimen. And I guess my only thing, we put the pin in it because we can agree. Then it never really went to public input. And then the public got to speak and they were the ones saying, well, wait a minute, we like that part of it. So having the specimen trees protected
Done a lot of input.
from the public at
Yes,
a
there's
council
input-
meeting.
Input from the public, yes. Like one person told me, suggested the idea of notifying neighbors, right? That was just from a public person. I was talking to as many people as I could. And not everybody's input got in. Again, I tried to stay true to the compromise that I thought the spirit of this group. So I'll sort of bear something that if I were able to write the ordinance just on my own, I think I would make the penalties lower. Not because I don't think developers should be paying, and I'm fine with that. It's just that I heard a lot of people when I was knocking on doors saying I can't afford to live in town anymore. But I did not, even though that's my personal preference, I wanted to stay true to the compromise that you guys agreed to. And so I left them as is. That was the filter that I used for the input that I included. Trying to stay my best efforts to stay true to the compromise of the Shade Tree Commission.
And if you remember from our meetings, it wasn't just, we didn't want to discuss it, it was a multifactorial issue. We also touched on riparian rights and people's personal property and things of that nature. How it affects their house, the safety of it. There were a lot of issues involved, which we couldn't get past. And obviously, we wanted to get this, to council because like I've said, it has been lingering. I've had emails with Chris Rodriguez when he was sitting in this chair since 2017 to try to get a better ordinance for the town.
So the work's not done.
I guess I just want to make sure that,
And we said we would discuss it. I mean,
discussing and getting back on the agenda for actual action.
well,
is what-
that's our job, right? I mean, we'll have it on the agenda every.
I meant the council agenda.
Well, that's our job.
It's gonna come from
public meeting, like am I allowed to talk? I don't need to.
Well, I think we.
Yeah, wait.
No, Mr. Mayor, we didn't get to public
No.
participation yet, but maybe we can make an exception perhaps.
So yes, to use Ryan's analogy that he started with, that I feel like we're on the 1 yard line. Well, after you go into the touchdown, what do? You kick off, you keep playing. So that's the analogy that I'll roll with, is that you're just talking about heritage right now. From being up, when I'm sitting up there, I've heard a few more issues than that. I've heard discussions on the 5 tree mechanism that initiates the report. I've heard Mr. Perkins talking about what's on the approved list of trees and, how that should look. Obviously, we're sitting here discussing, certain protections for heritage and specimen trees. In my opinion, I think we have enough feedback already to start the conversation for what phase 2 of this ordinance looks like. And I'll say it again, as soon as, Shade Tree and everyone can get together on sort of a compromise of how they think that should look, I'll put it on a workshop at the next meeting. You have my word, no.
Say that again, say it again.
As soon as we get it, I didn't make sense there? I guess I did.
I lost.
As soon as there's a compromise as to how that language should sound, as far as the protections and all the other things that we've talked about. And they want to make Shade Tree wants to make a recommendation to the governing body as to how we can improve assuming this ordinance passes, how we can improve the existing ordinance. I will immediately workshop that at the next council meeting. Now, I can't promise you when it's workshop that 4 members of the governing body are going to agree exactly with what the recommendations are. But based on what we've seen in the past, I would think that some semblance of those recommendations would end up making their way into the ordinance.
And so then you go back to, am I allowed to speak?
I think, are we open for public?
Well, but yeah, because
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the dam might be breaking open here.
But I meant
It's gonna break
But-
eventually.
This is an important part of the whole discussion.
Of course. it is,
Let's
but
follow the.
Yeah, let's stick with the agenda and I know that I have a feeling there's some public participation coming this way. But
That's all I had to say.
Oh,
Done.
there we go. Proposed new agenda items.
Heritage.
I feel like Heritage Street. I'm picking up Heritage
So can we
Street.
just make it significant specimen tree?
What? Yeah.
Bonnie, that's what I mean when I say Heritage Street, it's just.
Yeah.
Well,
we want to-
it's in the existing ordinance, it's all there, the language is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
so it's like,
It's
yeah.
synonym.
But just-
Heritage specimen.
Yeah, it's easier to say.
Well, there's
Doesn't-
2, Bonnie, right? There's significant specimen trees and specimen trees. I
Yeah.
think we should address both.
Yes, yeah, okay.
You guys have a lot of work to do.
And again, this is one of the reasons, like what Mike said, we had the conversation and it went into. Once you start dipping your toe into those private property issues, I mean, it becomes a real sticky issue. But moving on, it'll be on next month's agenda. If we have to strike a handful of any other updates, just because we wanna. This conversation is not a 5-minute conversation, I mean, it really took up the bulk of, I mean, we had 2 meetings. All we did was talk about the agenda, we cleared the agenda, that's all that was on, was the ordinance. Those meetings were over 2 hours long, just on the ordinance.
Right.
And this issue took up the bulk of that conversation, so. I'm more than happy to get this on the agenda for next, at the next meeting and have a lengthy, healthy discussion about it.
Well,
So we can
could
move
we add
something
it?
forward.
Could we add tree ordinance discussion on it as a running agenda, just in case anybody has?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not
Yeah.
just, right, because we
I think
wanted
that's
to,
a-
there's other things that Brian wrote down that we hadn't put a pin into because we.
But I
wanted
mean,
to
you might have
discuss
an
them.
instance you want to discuss about
Sure,
something that
absolutely,
happened.
sure.
Oh, yeah, it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be specific, we just ordinance heritage trees, or we'll call it, what were we calling this, appendix A on the agenda, or?
I would just say, sort of tree ordinance review. Like, how is it working, what needs to change, what needs to be added,
That appendix A.
it's not part of the ordinance. It's something you guys own.
No, but the way it is, as Bill Perkins pointed out, right now, it is part of the ordinance.
It's not part of it.
And this was just Xed out, this was attached here.
No, it's just attached, it's in the appendix.
I know, but it does say shrubs can, I think we should just, is that de minimis, just a lob off small trees and
That
shrubs?
has nothing to do with what the council passes. You guys can you can change that right now if you want. That's not part of the ordinance.
But is this anywhere on the shade tree?
The ordinance refers to it. That's
So
it.
where did this even come from? Is this on our website?
Yes.
Yeah, you click the link and it'll bring you to the record.
You guys
Okay.
own that document. You own that document.
Okay,
You can do whatever you want to it.
And it does, you scroll down far enough, it starts getting into, it does talk about, I'd really like to dedicate a whole meeting to this, if we're gonna reopen this, but it does get into shrubs and rhododendron and things like that on this list. But I believe also the ordinance speaks to a specific size of replacement in
It does.
each, so obviously that would cut out using
rhododendron.
shrubs, yeah, you wouldn't be able to use a shrub to replace as a replacement, for example.
It's like, I don't know.
Thank you.
Alright, so we'll get this on the agenda, tree ordinance review. Open season bond.
well, I mean, look, I don't mean to be difficult, I want this to pass, I want us to get fees. I think that I wasn't particularly happy with the process that, I thought we were having another workshop.
Really?
Not our process, okay, well, I mean, you can make fun, I'm
I'm not
trying to
making
do my
fun.
job, I think this is the most
You're doing it.
important thing that we do.
We don't.
And we should be really proud of this when we're said and done, and,
I agree.
You have people on
Yeah.
your side.
yeah, so I just,
We're on your side,
Yeah.
but we just also need to figure out a way to get something across the finish line.
And I
Because
think,
another few months passes by and, 15, 20 trees a month come down again. And nothing coming our way. Nothing helping us
plant trees.
plant trees.
If we could probably look at this and not all these would qualify
Right.
as, on the fee schedule because they were dead or, dying. But if we just even, counted the removals, we would have a lot more money to plant trees this year.
Mhm.
And that's how I got on board.
And you mentioned pride. I mean, I think we'd be proud to bring this up every meeting and then, look at it critically and then make our recommendations to Brian, and he can take it to council. So, like I said, it's a dynamic process that we're not just gonna forget about.
We won't, we promise. And again, we said before, we'll get to a point where we'll be talking about how many trees we planted versus how many just came down.
I want us throwing them at people. Trees.
We want everybody happy. We want everyone to feel like they, had input as best as possible. Again, best efforts. And it's not in stone.
This would be
Nobody-
$15,000 worth of trees if we had this at the beginning of the year.
How much?
15,000.
It's a lot of trees.
That's a lot of trees to plant.
Well, if
A lot of
they
projects, a
didn't,
lot of
I mean,
educational
if they didn't
projects.
plant trees, if they didn't plant their own trees.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Only if they decide not to plant their own
Yeah,
trees.
sorry,
Right.
yes,
But that would be good too.
yes.
We can agree.
Yeah, and
Plant
the
trees.
planting of new, the requirement to plant new trees is more burdensome or more restrictive or whatever. They have to do more planting than the existing ordinance. It's a higher burden. I didn't say that very well, but there'll be more trees in the ground versus the existing ordinance.
It's a higher bar.
It's a higher limit.
Okay, and you promise you'll get the speed thing worked out? That'll be in the
Yeah, I
ordinance?
will ask him.
Cause that really can't go through without that. And
Yeah,
that
he didn't
shouldn't
bring
be,
it up again, so but I'll ask him this.
that should not be, I mean, I don't know, just clarifying. We're not changing, we're clarifying that that does not violate some other code in the borough.
Yeah, I don't want that. I
Right.
want it to be what it says. There's too much work that went into it.
Any other proposed new agenda items?
I have one. I was talking to somebody in town who's an environmental scientist. Apparently she does, research on air quality. And Fairhaven has really bad air quality. I was completely unaware. I was hoping to maybe have her talk to us or the Environmental Commission, just to kind of let the community know. Because trees do act as barriers to this, apparently the inner city air comes down this way unchecked over the ocean. And the trees are really our only barrier. I had no idea it affects our cancer rates. It's important. It's really important that we know. I had no idea. So I would like to, hopefully she could speak to us or the Environmental Commission, and if we could, have some data that we could share, even if we put it with the tree planting and the tree removal permit, so that people are really mindful about whether or not they should take down their tree.
Sure, that's a good idea.
I would love to speak to her. Do you think she would come to our meeting?
I think she's willing to. She's been a little busy, but I will ask. I I didn't know if it would make more sense for the Environmental Commission or for us, but she's willing to come talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, if you want,
We
if
can
you're
always-
bringing it here,
We can invite the environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So if you want to follow up, you weren't thinking next meeting, probably a
Um,
little short notice for her, but
I can
and
ask.
if we,
I can ask.
well, if we're gonna do a tree ordinance review,
Oh,
I
it's
think
gonna
that's gonna
take
be,
up all the
I think it's
time.
gonna be a lengthy conversation. I do, I mean, it.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I think maybe, a January, February meeting, maybe, might be a
Mhm.
little better.
Okay.
But if you wanna follow up with her and then we can put it on, we'll put it on the agenda, you can give us an update and see what she says, dates available.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. Anything else? Anything else? Anything? Nothing? Moving on to public participation. Christie, do we have any public participants that would like to speak?
You
We'll
wanna
take
move
care of
online
the-
first?
You wanna do the online first? Yeah.
Okay, if you have a question or comment online, please use the raise hand feature and I will bring you over. Robin, you're going off and on. There's. Go ahead.
Good evening, Robin O'Neill, 935 River Road. And I'd like to refer to the comment talked about earlier on mentioning the preventative care of our Fairhaven trees. The New Jersey all of you knowing that it hasn't rained in over 6 weeks here in Fairhaven. The New Jersey Forest Service reported 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine who's involved with Friends of the Drew Forest in Morris County, where a fire broke out in a 53-acre preserve there. And it was reported by the fire service that because of a major volunteer effort in the spring, where they removed dry invasive vines, that it kept the fire at bay and it only destroyed 2 of the 53 acres. This is a great segue for me because I'm a messenger from the Fairhaven Natural Fields Committee that is having a volunteer, like Bonnie said, a volunteer 2 days. It's going to be 10 to 1. I would love to meet all of the Shade Tree Commission members. I would love to see all of you out there. There will be refreshments. There will be lunch. There will be time to congregate and get to know one another. And I would love to get to know you on the Shade Tree Commission. I also wanted to know, I'm just curious to know how much of how many members of the Shade Tree Commission are educated on the MS4 permit stormwater management that is being handed down by the state, because that really, that education should be mentioned to the public. When I mention about a shade tree ordinance to friends of mine and neighbors of mine, it's really about, having these rooted, trees that are native and really provide preventive erosion. That is the goal here. And that is what, the state is really trying to mandate. I also am really in favor of the air quality report, and I would be really happy to advertise a Zoom to the public in January or February. I recently planted a method I was involved with a group in Elizabeth. I had never been to Elizabeth. I have a Philadelphia view of New Jersey, thinking that it is Elizabeth. And when I went there, I was expecting, to see poor air quality. And they are doing massive tree plantings there. It's the Japanese Miyawaki method that plants 350 trees, saplings, in a small area that really affects the air quality in a positive way. They also are there's also methods of air pruning boxes that really all of us can gather in our backyards and do sapling plantings with our kids, with our grandkids, with our neighbors, and really share these little saplings so that we don't have to incur this $15,000 expense or whatever you're talking about with tree plantings. We can start them young and we can start them anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you.
Anyone else online? No other comments online?
Okay. I'll open it up to the people in front of us here.
Mark Wilson, Cambridge. I just think on the specimen tree, it's very simple. Just name the trees. Josh says it's a living and breathing document. Don't define what the trees are, list them. Say list all the trees on Buttonwood and then have an address. Just get 25 trees as specimen trees, get the thing started. And just roll. I think that's de minimis. Is that de minimis?
I don't know. That's a loaded question. I don't know.
Mark, are you saying,
Just get it done.
It's not de minimis, but if you came to a quick decision after the ordinance is passed on something like that, I wouldn't have to wait for all 4 things at once. I mean, I would workshop it and we'd introduce it and move towards it immediately. It's not a de minimis change. 100%. I don't have to even ask attorney, so that is not a de minimis change.
And one of the things that came up in the conversation, just like that, Mark, was, who are we to say, all right, listen, we're gonna take trees on your property and we're gonna say, these are, special trees that can't be touched or fall under some kind of special circumstance.
Just do 10, just start small. I'm with Brian, I'm with Josh. Get it started, but get some of these little things. These are easy, those are small hurdles. But if you have to define what a specimen tree is, oh my God.
Yeah, no, I would like to love your
I
I think we were kind of.
I love your input on it, because you mentioned the buttonwood trees, but those are borough trees, so are we talking about people's property trees, or are we talking about borough trees or
I
both?
believe you're talking about property trees.
Yeah.
There's the 8 from the big tree hunt, there's a handful more, and then Josh is talking about, you can adjust it later.
I mean, are those buttonwood
Yeah.
trees protected? No,
The borough ones or the ones on people's?
the tree, because
property?
I don't think they're protected now.
Can't remove a borough tree.
Yes, you can.
The borough, yeah, person.
Are you sure in this ordinance it protects our borough trees?
This is just removing.
Borough decides what happens to borough trees.
Yeah,
But if you define it as a specimen tree, then, then however you resolve.
I can't just go cut down a borough tree. Or do anything, I can't
What
prune it, I
is-
can't water it, I can't, I guess I can water it, but.
Yeah.
I can't, it's not my property.
I'm not sure that they feel like they're totally protected in this. Where,
it's, well, that, I mean, it's.
we
not-
took out the definition of borough tree, the street trees. But I thought it was if it's over,
It
you have to
depends.
get, you can get a permit to remove it. You can get a permit to remove a street tree. We don't have a borough tree defined in here anymore.
But doesn't
Because
this,
the ordinance applies to all trees, including borough trees. So the borough, if it owns a tree, it has to abide by the ordinance. As
But
part of the MS4
As a
requirement.
person, it says in here, a borough tree, like I assume that if a person wants to remove the borough tree in front of their property, they just need to get a permit.
If it's a borough tree, I don't think you can take down a borough.
I think you can. I think that's what's in here.
That is good.
You know, we
and
can
the
ask.
borough has to adhere to these guidelines, right? They have to.
Well, it's not the borough taking it down. If someone on Buttonwood says, I don't want that tree anymore, I'm afraid of it, it's gonna fall on my house. Does our new ordinance protect that tree?
So I can't answer specifically that, I can answer right now, I know that, obviously, I live on Glenwood. The issue years ago was when we came to the borough, they had to trim the trees because we didn't own the trees, the borough owned the trees. It's in the borough right of way, obviously the tree is. I'd really like to focus on what Mark just said, because it lit a bulb for me, rather than sit there and define the exact calculation of which tree falls into the specimen tree. It's pretty obvious that we're gonna wanna, you had mentioned, Bonnie, I think it was you and me, they wanna protect the big hunt trees. Obviously, there's the sycamores, Bunwood are an important part of the heritage of this town. And I'm sure there's a few others that qualify in that neighborhood. So better than sitting there and trying to define the calculation. I would kind of agree if you just specify the very specific trees, but I want to be clear, that's still more than a de minimis change. So I would still put that on your next meeting for discussion. If you could define what specifically those trees are and get that to the council, I would think if it's reasonable that the council's going to support it. I would agree.
Okay, I just want to clarify, under tree replacement requirements, it says any person who removes one or more street trees, which is the new definition in here, we don't have borough tree anymore, with a DBH of 2.5 or more, unless exempt under all those exemptions, which is,
Basically,
A
a dead
hazard.
tree, yeah, that's a tree.
yeah, so, shall be subject to the requirements of the tree replacement requirements, so, yes, you can remove a borough tree.
So the definition of a person includes the borough.
But this is a person, this is the resident.
Yeah, but Bonnie, why would the permit get issued if they don't own the tree?
Yeah, you
They have to
you
apply.
can't cut down other people's trees.
Well, then, why does this even say they want to cut down a street tree?
I think there's a disconnect. That's
Well,
not-
I think it's not clear then. I mean, I don't.
You're the only one coming to that conclusion.
Well, that doesn't mean it's not a correct conclusion.
It doesn't,
I mean,
but
we don't
I
define
haven't,
borough
I
tree anymore, right? We only define a borough tree as a street tree. Is that the same thing?
all
Is-
trees are treated the same. I mean,
But
based
then
on,
why do we have street tree in here?
I shouldn't say all trees. Regardless of ownership, all trees are treated the same. The resident, the borough has to abide by the ordinance. Regardless of who, individual or the borough.
Okay,
There might be an exception for the state, if I remember correctly.
but
That's
I really am confused about this, and I think it's not an unimportant thing.
I'm
That
sure we can bring it to the attention of Sol and see what his interpretation is, right?
Well,
I'm quite certain that an individual resident cannot cut down borough property tree.
And a street tree is a borough property tree.
is that the new definition for a borough tree,
So-
street tree?
I know there's a difference between if the borough has the right of way, but the resident can own a tree. But then there's some trees that the borough owns, like the buttonwood.
Okay, but again, I just think if there's no definition of borough tree, I don't, do you, Bill,
So this
Just-
question was specifically asked at the meeting because you talked about the attorney has trees planted in the borough right of way. Those become street trees in the borough right of way. The way the ordinance reads right now, this new ordinance, anyone could cut down 2.5-inch caliber street tree.
and they just have to replace it.
As long as
So
they own the
this-
tree.
No, that is not what it says in here. Brian, it doesn't say that.
It's a street tree. You can cut
It says a street tree. It doesn't say if you own it or not.
Hence, we even define street tree and we give a specific definition. to a
Brian, I'm not trying to be
2.5 tree.
difficult. I'm just saying that if you can tell me that those buttonwoods are protected and those.
They're not protected and we specifically
I mean,
discussed this.
Yeah,
I asked
I,
the question and I'm concerned that
My answer to that truthfully is we're heading into the winter. I don't think a lot of people take a lot of trees down in the winter. Bear with me. We have a path forward here to define which trees we want to put into the next version of the ordinance. There's no one on Bunwood Drive that's rushing to cut down the sycamore tree. It's what makes the entire street beautiful. There's no one that's gonna want to do.
somebody, your next door neighbor sells it to a person from New York who hates trees, hates leaves.
They're not gonna move to Bunwood Drive.
No, you have time now.
They
You don't have to
do,
worry
that's
about it
fine.
now.
They don't wanna leave them in property. I mean, and that's happened to, I think, in various places, that's happened.
If we can come to an agreement here, 2 months from now, we will put those protections that we're talking about for those specific trees into the ordinance.
How many do you trees are like that?
I'm just,
we're talking about street trees on Hans Road, there's street trees.
there's street trees.
Meeting, you take over the meeting,
Yeah.
calling people. No,
So,
Yeah, we can't.
yeah, this isn't a meeting.
Alright, so that was the first point on the specimen tree. The second point was. You guys touched on, or can you get some sort of agreement, quarterly might be too much, but annually in front of the council to address the ordinance, just to touch on it. To see if there's.
We
been
just
changes.
discussed that, yeah, I think
Perfect, yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
idea, sure.
And then the last one was, the shade tree fund about the uses. Not to be used to remove trees, like if it's gonna go into this fund only to plant trees.
It's planted, it's
Plant.
plant and maintenance.
Plant maintenance, yeah,
And can maintenance not be removable? That's all,
I mean, that wouldn't be my definition. I don't know that
just de minimis. That's all I got.
it's all de minimis. My brain is. de minimis.
Mark, I personally.
Thank you, Mark.
Personally feel that, planting and maintenance would be what we would use the fund
Right.
for. I don't think anybody here would wanna use the fund to remove.
I agree with
I
you.
didn't even enter
And
the
just put the
thought, yeah.
removal of where it is.
Okay.
Is removal considered
Avoid
part of
maintenance,
maintenance?
yes,
That's kind of the question. Like, do we need a definition of what maintenance is and? Fine, that.
I would say a plain English definition of maintenance.
Yes, Josh? Chris is
Right.
sitting back.
Josh Alfred, Bunwood Drive. First of all, you now have 202 followers.
Oh, look at that.
Nice, nice.
Thanks.
I don't have much, but really what I wanted to start with is saying thank you. Because obviously it's become a hot topic around town and it just happened to coincide around the time of year when there's a lot more emotions going on. So I know how much work you all put into this from all different angles. It doesn't, go beyond my thinking of, how much time you spent on it, time away from your families. Here volunteering on behalf of the Borough Fair. So I want to thank the whole Shade Tree Commission, for all the work that you put into it, as well as obviously Councilman Olson. I did want to throw out here only because I don't know if you got an email. We do have some quorum issues tonight where we can't all be here. So we did get some notes from Councilwoman DiMichelli.
Okay.
Did you get the email? If not, I'll just read it real quick so that it's on the record from her. So her thoughts was removing the approved list, the actual grid, and just keeping the link. These are just ideas she has for future ordinances. 14-8.5, define what appropriate fee assessment is. Is it legally compliant not to specify in the ordinance? What is the max dollar amount that they could possibly spend or max number of trees they would have to plant? It seems that more burden will be on homeowner taking down one tree than a developer taking down numerous trees. Obviously, for anyone listening, we can't make a separate ordinance for developers than we can for residents. So we gotta try and split the hair there, but that was her thought on that. Lowering the number to qualify as large scale removal, which I think I mentioned, that's a topic I heard from a bunch of people during these meetings. Street trees, these need to have some parameters. As written, any tree abutting wood can be taken down. That's her thoughts there. And then consideration for adding some protections. I've attached a sample of what is in the Little Silver new ordinance. This could help address unintended consequences. So if you don't have that email, I'll get it to you tomorrow. I just want to say it for the record, because she could put it there. So thank you again to everyone for your hard work on this.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Who's next?
First of all, yes, from you, thank you very much for, I know this is a volunteer position and no one needs use. However, I do have some comments. So I disagree that Appendix A is not part of the ordinance. Appendices are part of the ordinance. They're mentioned numerous times in the ordinance, so I don't know why or how they could not be part of the ordinance. Being that as it may, the Shade Tree Commission is on their website list recommended tree list, and then they have recommended trees for planting in Fairhaven. And again, we list. I have 5 shrubs.
Sure, right.
If it's a minimus change, or if it's something that you guys can vote on right now, I don't know why we would have rhododendrons on a tree. We're saying recommended trees. That's your own wording on your website, and you're the Shade Tree Commission. So I don't know why we would have rhododendrons, mountain laurels, spice bush, winterberry, and Irish blueberry as trees to be planted.
So that was the list, and we came up with long before this ordinance has gotten to the point where it is now. And again, it's my understanding, and I guess I could be wrong because there's a lot going on in this ordinance now, but if someone cuts down an X size tree, they're required to replace it with a specific size tree per the ordinance. Those sizes would automatically disqualify rhododendrons and everything like that. That list was compiled as a reference early on for people to just go to and have that.
I totally appreciate that. I'm just saying, as a body, if it's that easy to change,
Do
I
you
don't
think,
think there needs to be a big
Do you think-
discussion. I think we should eliminate shrubs from
But
something
Bill-
we as a body are saying are trees.
what
to replace.
if we put on Appendix A, approved list of replacement shade trees? And
Well,
because then it's the big trees, then it just is this
That's a
part of
big
it.
great thing, because that's, would be the second part of my discussion, my
Yeah, so
comment is.
it limits.
If you cut down a 150-year-old oak tree and replace it with a dogwood tree,
Mhm.
that's not really a tree for tree
And-
replacement. The dogwood's life expectancy is 30 years, maybe a little bit longer. 150-year-old, 500-year-old tree you can have. I mean, so that's a deeper conversation.
Mhm.
I'm just would like, at the very least, this is unnecessary verbiage that can create
Could we
confusion
make that
that I
change?
don't think
At the
we
minutes?
need. And you guys are the Shade Tree
I'm writing it
Commission,
down.
so I think
Yeah.
it's.
We also need to put, it says that, I mean, this is called the approved list, and it says the Fairhaven Shade Tree Commission has provided this list of recommended. We need to say approved shade trees, right? It has to be consistent. One place is approved, one's.
They're gonna be, well, the clarification was in the newest version, was supposed to be recommended and a recommended. There's still One says approving, one says recommended.
Yeah, but I
Which-
think
There's a
that
difference in the two.
just make it the shade, like recommend shade trees, and then that does not include, right, the small or
Yes,
ornamental.
I would
and- or
agree.
the-
Crab apples and dogwoods are
And it
not,
also doesn't include the evergreens, but I don't know if you should replace
well, to your point about a rhododendron being a shrub.
Right.
Evergreens are typically not measured by caliper
Right.
either. So evergreens are measured by height. So you have a 10 to 12 foot spruce.
Okay.
So you wouldn't necessarily have a 2.5 inch caliper
This
spruce,
is a very
you'd measure it by
reasonable-
height. So the ordinance is written in caliper, and I would maybe do to that point, and if it's a recommended list, I could still plant white pine if I wanted to. You're saying these are your list of recommendations. That doesn't preclude you from. If you have an approved list, this is the be all end all. Approved means these are the only ones that you can plant. Recommended is your recommendation. So.
I thought it said recommended list.
It says recommended, but isn't this approved, like, are we recommending them, or is this what we approved for them to plant?
No, I think we should recommend.
Yeah.
As a landscape architect, yes, you should only recommend.
Recommend,
Because there's
yeah.
like many
Yeah,
other trees. you can
Yeah,
plant.
absolutely.
So
And I thought the link.
my second comment is, we talked about the number of trees replaced and whatever else are those 11 trees, but according to this new ordinance, dead, diseased, dying trees require no replacement.
Correct.
So you only get your $75.
No.
Yeah,
So,
that
and-
was the removals that I was counting.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so. I still think there can be, I know the council is concerned about moving this forward and not having. Litigation or somebody challenging it, but I still think you can end up with challenges because somebody, instead of paying $4,000 to remove a 30 inch caliper tree. They're gonna say that the tree is dead, diseased, or dying, and they won't have to pay anything to take down the tree.
The only
So
person
we'll
that
get
can make,
nothing.
the only person that can make that determination is Sherry.
Correct.
But is
So
she,
you pay her $75, and she's not gonna say, as has been the case in the past, where she's not gonna tell you that she's not gonna be able to guarantee that that tree is not gonna fall. Right? Which is what the council was saying was an issue for them, which is why they weren't allowed to deny any permits ultimately when they came to the council. Was because you couldn't guarantee, if you were worried about the tree falling on your house, running a swing set. The same conditions are gonna exist. Will be the same.
Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
The difference there is we wouldn't be denying the permit, it's just how much you would pay in that situation, so. If
Right.
it's a dead or dying tree in the situation you brought up, then it would obviously be a lesser fine. If she determines that it's not a dead or dying tree, and she says, no, it's not a dead or dying tree, but here's your permit, you owe $4,000 or whatever
Right.
whatever the number is, that's up to the resident at that point, whether they want to take the tree.
But then they can appeal it, I'm saying.
No.
They will-
They cannot, if they have their choice to take the tree down because it's dead or dying, or they have their choice to take the tree down because they want to pay the fee.
Mark my words, somebody will
You're right.
choose to litigate because they're not gonna wanna spend $4,000. And they'll get a lawyer to come and then you'll be in the same situation. That's
We spend
reality.
more than $4,000. They hire a lawyer.
Yeah, but in any event, I don't think anybody's necessarily gonna do it for 4,000. I'm saying if there's a number of trees, that can still happen. I'm just bringing up.
Thanks.
Speaking
Appreciate Matt?
It's Suzanne Cave. My husband on a shade tree, unfortunately, had a conflict there. Some of this is just, I'm sorry, I just like jumped out of my house to come, and I usually show up more prepared. And dress, so. Just a couple clarification points. I have listened to this topic for 7 years. I've listened to the shade tree. I've listened to 4 years of this conversation. From my kitchen, you all on Zoom, so some of it is just clarification, and everyone has very valid points. One piece of clarification tonight, Bonnie, you just brought some thinking here, is you mentioned something about they weren't included. Is that, you went to a conference or something, you referenced they weren't included, is it someone that should have been included on the ordinance that you're talking about? What I came in earlier tonight. It was a conference.
The
Oh, they're talking about the shade, the foresters, the actual
Yeah.
foresters.
And are you referencing that they weren't included in this?
I just was saying, no, this has nothing to do with this. I was just saying
Okay.
that I was reporting back what that was told to us there, and, you know, and Bill Brooks did the same thing, that they didn't ask for us.
Okay, great. So I was just wondering if you had any takeaways that should have been included, because I know that Mike D'Angelo has worked very diligently on this
No,
for years.
That was nothing.
Okay.
Oh, no.
That was just kind of a, that was.
Perfect. I just want to make sure if there's any.
It's not.
For the record, we all have, it's not just.
I know, but listen, I've heard from the kitchen upstairs. So, all right, thank you. I wanted to make sure about that. You answered my one question about the budget. And then the other point is there's an 80-20 rule, right, as we work. And again, this is 4 years that this is going on, and it sounds like that there's no stopgaps kind of in place. I'm paraphrasing from everything that I've heard. That if you just get this to where it needs to go, and then you have all the other stopgaps that are gonna just jump in and either add the definitions that's needed or something. I'm just asking, somehow you get this to the council because it's 4 years going on. And it's just from myself, listening to it for you all, I'm feeling frustration for you all. You've worked so hard, you all have such passion, which I can appreciate it, but no one has ill intent in this town. No one has ill intent on this ordinance. If you can just get it to where you need to get it over the finish line, let's please do it as much as you can. So that's just for the record. If people don't know the history of this, Shade Tree started 7 years with Chris Rodriguez. A number of members have stayed on for 7 years, and this has been going on for 4 years. And Bonnie, I apologize. I don't know how long you've been on the Shade Tree. I think a few years now, at least COVID, I remember. So some of this conversation, I'm kind of bewildered that it hasn't been done, it hasn't been concluded, it hasn't been able to move forward. I just sit back in a little bit of amazement. I move a little bit faster just in my own type of work. Sorry about that. So that's my point. My last one in regards to the bad air quality is, Leah, if you don't mind, someone mentioned to you that lives in town that we have bad air quality in Fairhaven, or is it, how did that come about?
I spoke to an environmental scientist that lives in town, and all she
Okay.
does is air quality and data, like that's her job.
Okay,
And she told me that is, unfortunately the fact here.
okay. So what I find concerning about that is if I was a scientist that lived in town and I had that data, that is it something, I heard the word cancer or air quality. Is that something that should have been, be brought a little bit faster or something like that? Or is this hey, we should look into this, it's nothing urgent, but I'm sitting back here and we have bad air quality in cancer and it
I
seems
mean,
like
it's
it's not.
probably been a problem for a very long time.
Of course,
And, I certainly didn't know about it, and I imagine most of us didn't.
right,
We assumed, oh, we moved out, or, we're not in the city, we've got fresh air now. But, I think that it's important for people to know how to protect, the best way, seriously, to protect us is to have trees.
I think we should speak with her, absolutely.
yeah, I'm
See
just
what she has to
wondering.
say.
Yeah,
If I was, I just thought it'd be something that would be not on your part. Anyone that had that kind of information, I would think that would have been brought, it sounds like it was a passing conversation versus, hey, let me get on the phone to the mayor, who I call all the time and text all the time saying, found this out. It just sounds like there's more urgency to it.
you're seeking more urgency, is what you're saying.
That's what, for me, if I had someone living in town. Or if I was someone living in town and said, wow, there's really kind of bad air quality in this town who causes cancer, I better call the mayor. Maybe she doesn't have that, maybe it's not that level of severity.
And also, maybe it's germane not just to our town, but to the area, because
Exactly.
as Leah mentioned, it's because the air quality coming down the water line.
Exactly,
So it's something that we should, probe and
Right.
discuss. I think it's worth discussing.
yeah, it just made me pause a minute to say, okay, right? Anyway, I'm just, I guess, a wife sitting home listening to these conversations for 7 years and 4 years saying, what's moved forward here and things, and you are doing some great work, but there's the 80-20 rule in life, and it sounds like you have the stop gaps to fix what needs to be or added. So, I do thank you for all your volunteer work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Hi,
Lindsay?
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great, thanks.
Who are you?
Kelly Flanagan, 223 Third Street. And I voluntarily, asked, put my big tree, on your specimen report. I think it's fantastic. And I have the third largest elm in Monmouth County. But I think those are really important things, to consider. The Salem oak, cottonwood, the cherries along Fairhaven Road, these are all super important to the fabric of our town, and I do believe, I don't know if this is true, but the reason why Third Street is called Third Street was because there was three big trees, and two of which were in the middle of the road at some point. I don't know if some of these old timers or people. But I've heard that there's, there's a story about your big tree. No. Okay. Well, there was one on Downey Lane though. But I don't think it was those. Okay. Well, anyway, I love our tree, and I think that is a very special thing to protect for. But, Robin brought up the idea of the MS4 too, and just the importance of people don't know what other added values trees have, right? And in terms of that, and I think we need to look at the whole picture. And I say this, would love to collaborate more with the Shade Tree and the Environmental Commission, because there's so much overlap. And these discussions are super important to have a better understanding of each tree is a different case and has its own story and plays its own role in wherever that is located. And I think I totally would love to hear from your friend about air quality. That is something that, I know even in Environmental Commission, we've talked about some of these parameters, right? You look outside, you see the fresh air, and you think we have good air quality, but it's the stuff that you can't see or smell. And you wonder how that's impacting our asthma rates, or, whether it is cancer or not, I don't know, but other things, these hidden dangers, right? And I think it's important for all of us to know that. In addition, there's a heat map, and I was wondering if the Shade Tree Commission has seen the heat map of Fairhaven. I did send it to you, Christy, but I do think that is super important when we're considering trees and tree removal too. There are parts of our town that are red because of heat. Obviously by Acme, downtown, community center, Knollwood, Sportsman's Field, obviously, but we can do a better job. And I think having all those MS4 air quality heat map, every tree has its own, that needs to be looked at separate individually, will just help us make better decisions too. And I'm happy to share that heat map as well, as a resource.
Yeah, we looked at this, maybe like 6 or 7 months ago, we looked at the,
Okay.
yeah. And I think we all were required to do the MS4 training for stormwater. Wasn't that about a year ago? I think we all had.
Yeah, and I know you guys, we did too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm just, I think a lot of times residents perhaps don't know that, it's education. And speaking on behalf of the Green Team and the Environmental Commission, we'd love to partner and just, I know we do a lot of work with the schools too, but just to kind of bring that big picture and understanding of what a tree, and especially a native tree, does to our ecosystem, environment, and everything else that we love about Fairhaven.
Thank you.
Great,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Now, yours, folks.
Can I repeat? Marbles, and I just think this is Suzanne, Bonnie's job here memory, and now Kelly's our client memory, or John's a thought from me. What a cool idea. You volunteer your tree into the specimen tree program. What a cool town if people started endorsing trees. And Josh came out and said, here's the 2 trees on Buttonwood. I want these on that list.
I got 3, right?
3 right there. We're up to 4 in the back row. Someone's got what a great idea. The other one is Bill. That website, Bonnie and I did that as like a goof, or I
No,
forgot.
it wasn't a goof.
Well,
It was a recommended, we were
wasn't
taking,
We used it, you like it.
yeah,
So if you would like to help me to
Yeah.
prove that, why
I'm just saying that shrubs need to come off the trees. That's my own.
But you might have some insight on shade trees.
Take a walk.
Love to connect.
Yeah,
Which
we
is
can take a walk. We
language
can.
needs to change on. the
Yeah.
appendix, right under the appendix.
I have a note to talk to you about that after, just make
It's
sure.
right after, under here,
You-
it needs to be.
You own that, you change that whatever you want. That's not working.
Appendix is all part of the legal document.
Let's,
Just to be
Yeah,
clear.
I think it's,
well, I mean, we can make a choice here. We can be here till 11 o'clock rehashing
Okay.
this thing,
No.
or we can use next meeting in its entirety to really iron out some.
okay, just, this is going, there's nothing we can do at this point, it's going. Full steam ahead to the council, and it's gonna
They
get
got the
approved,
votes.
and it's gonna get approved. But I just think it's, if that is a de minimis change, just to make sure that the language, it says approved one place, recommended to another place. If you just add shade tree and evergreen,
When the meeting's over, show it to me, because I don't have it in front of me.
For the
And
record,
Beth,
I have two rhododendrons, we have two rhododendrons, I think they're 30 feet high. They're amazing,
Big, getting shape.
that's
Yeah.
all, take care of them.
yeah,
That's the
they're
treasure.
they're really big.
Yeah, nice.
Like,
I like it. Of
parking lot.
But you sit under the shade.
course.
All right, any more public participants? Comments? Anyone out there? No one's out there, right? We went through that.
No.
All right. And get a motion to adjourn this meeting, please. Please.
Second.
All right, everybody, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.